Bueno, niin mehr. With respect to interrogation analysis, it's no secret the benefit of hindsight gives you a considerable advantage when evaluating information. When you know a subject is guilty, it allows you to exclusively look for guilty behavior. The knowledge of outcome highlights the imperatives while stripping away non-essentials, and this allows you to calculate certain things that would otherwise be overlooked by cause of your own doubt. Hindsight is 20/20. Everyone is well aware of this aphorism, and what's fascinating is that it not only applies, but is far more compatible to the innocent than it is to the guilty. The reason for this is because the information you have to scrutinize is reduced when dealing with innocent subjects. When you remove the versatile factors of misdirection and trickery, you're left with relatively straightforward behavior in comparison. Of course, the argument that everyone is different and can react in a different manner has merit. Human beings are unique, and there will always be exceptions to every rule, especially when you take into consideration that trauma can cause atypical behavior. Yet, atypical behavior and guilty behavior are generally distinguished from each other with relative ease. And that brings us to example number 1. 37-year-old Michael Dixon, described by his peers as popular, friendly, but also unassuming and reserved. A self-professed introvert who turned down a job as a trade show presenter due to his fear of public speaking, and kept his position as a trade show assembler instead. On August 15, 2003, in Hamilton, Ontario, police were called to report a man breaking into a jewelry store. 2 officers responded and chased the perpetrator from the store down an alley before momentarily losing sight of them. At the same time, Michael Dixon was getting off a bus nearby coming home from work. He was the first person the police saw when coming out of the alley and was then arrested at gunpoint. Dixon voiced his innocence but didn't resist arrest and stated he would help in any way he could. He was taken to the Hamilton police station and questioned 2 hours after his arrest. One could advocate this as a common policing misstep if it weren't for the suspect being described as a small white man in the 911 call. As well as not being white, Dixon is 6'3". This detective has either forgotten standard procedure to review the call to dispatch, or for some reason decided to reject it as evidence altogether. Michael is informed the room is being recorded and then read his rights. He asserts he is willing to speak with a detective and help with the investigation.
Okay, why we're here is because earlier tonight you were arrested for breaking into a jewelry store in One Street South. Now, your innocence in doing this, quite frankly, is an issue. The evidence I have is, frankly, conclusive and overwhelming. Okay? So I'm not even going to ask you if you did it. What I have to ascertain here is what kind of guy you are.
The subject maintains a forward-leaning posture and keeps his eyes both in contact and on the same level as the detective's. He displays self-confidence and poise, while it's the detective, in fact, who gives off a nervous disposition. What Michael just did is known as a non-verbal challenge in forensic psychology. So let's break it down into components. In the next moment, the detective will shift in his seat to adjust his position, and at the same time break eye contact to look somewhere in this direction. Michael's exaggerated head movement that follows isn't for the purpose of maintaining eye contact. He could maintain it while keeping his head perfectly still. It is in fact to let the detective know he is maintaining eye contact. It's a way of asserting dominance in the exchange. He is telling the detective that he is the more confident person in the room at that moment.
What I have to ascertain here is what kind of guy you are. Whether this is you're like a serial burglar and this is what you're doing all the time, or whether this is a one-off thing because of the power cut and everything that's going on tonight. That's all we're here for.
Okay, I understand your position. Like I say here, I didn't do it, and you've heard that a million times, I'm sure, in your career, but it's just, ask me questions. That's all I can do is answer them, I guess.
I've got no questions to ask you. I mean, why did you do it? That's basically, that's my only question.
Coming from that position, and since I'm saying I didn't do it, I really don't have an answer for you except to say I didn't do it.
I guess we haven't really got a
we're like
a great amount of talking
Yeah.
about. Yeah, it's like I said, whether you did it or not isn't up for the discussion.
okay, well,
It's really not.
You've no doubt come to notice how incredibly tolerant Michael is over the unjustness of the situation. It's the most unusual thing about his behavior, and perhaps what makes him an anomaly with respect to innocent subjects. So before moving on to the second phase of this interrogation, we'll show you a more common response from an innocent subject facing similar charges. This is 26-year-old Justin, falsely accused of breaking and entering, first-degree theft, and assault. He was arrested at his home and only read his rights to silence on the way to the police station. The footage will begin before the subject knows what exactly he is being charged with. In his mind, he knows he has done nothing wrong, and at this point is unaware he is about to be wrongfully imprisoned for just over 2 years.
Alright, Justin, get that form. You know what I read you earlier? The 19th of February. 2 days ago, so it'll be Tuesday. Alright, about 5, 6 in the morning. Where were you at then?
I was at my mother's house. You call her and ask her. I was downstairs asleep.
Did she know you were asleep at that time?
Yeah.
He doesn't see the interrogators as a threat, but more of an inconvenience. His responses are short and concise. He does not seek approval. He only responds to a question or states a point.
I mean, did she see you sleeping at that time?
Yeah, I don't never leave. If I ain't doing nothing, I stay at my mother's house. So I'm not working, I'm at home.
You didn't go to labor ready that day or nothing looking for a job, yeah. That morning, house got broken into.
Okay.
The detective's strategy is to reveal the charges in a periodic manner. Getting a confession to one charge at a time is far easier than gaining admission to all of them at once. The plan is to reveal the break-in and robbery charge first, then reveal the assault at a later stage. The detective goes on to explain that the accuser named Candy said she saw him loitering around her house in the evening hours of the night, and a short time later witnessed him break in and steal a multitude of valuable items. The detective then explains that she picked him out of a 12-picture lineup of suspects.
She said you broke in this apartment. Okay, well tell me why.
Justin is now aware of the burglary charge, which holds a possible 20-year prison sentence due to previous convictions. He will now begin to forcefully assert his innocence, and each time he does so, will bring forward his posture and strengthen his vocal emphasis while making the assertion.
Alright, so I mean, she's saying that I was there before. Is that what she's saying? She's saying she's seen my face before the break-in happened?
Yeah.
I didn't break in her house. I don't know who she is. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know no girl named Candy. None of that shit.
Why is she saying that you're...
I don't know why she's saying I don't know why I don't know.
What were you doing there?
I was not there. I don't know this girl Candy. The only Candy that I even heard of is this guy I know named Tim Stahl dates her.
The person he just mentioned was the accuser's ex-boyfriend.
That's it.
How do you know Tim Stoll?
I grew up with the dude, man.
The accuser's testimony was later picked apart in court. She was caught lying on the stand multiple times, and Justin was exonerated. He was proven innocent not just beyond all reasonable doubt, but essentially beyond all doubt.
Last thing I heard about them two, she had him arrested for domestic violence. That's all I know about this girl Candy. I ain't never went in that girl's house, none of that shit. I didn't do that shit. As God is my fucking witness, I did not do it. I used to be a piece of shit when I got out of the fucking penitentiary. I told myself I wasn't going back. I ain't done nothing but work my fucking ass off the entire time I've been out.
Can you prove, other than you saying you did not, is it that morning? What can you tell, how can you prove to me that you were at home?
All you gotta do is call and ask my mother.
So you're telling me you didn't step foot out of the house
Not 1 foot.
Tuesday?
Not one.
The detective then goes on to reveal Justin is accused of assaulting the supposed victim during the robbery.
Take a vanity mirror and you hit her over the head with it and you guys fight. she got injuries.
No, man. Hell no, man. Get her goddamn boyfriend, Tim Stone, in here and question him about her goddamn injuries. Look at that straight right there. This sounds like it's a goddamn thing of fucking her boyfriend, Tim Stone, done fucking done something to her, and now they're trying to put it on me. I know that's what the fuck this is.
And look, that's why we're talking to you, okay?
No, this is bullshit, man, because I've tried everything in my fucking power to stay the fuck out of this goddamn fucking penitentiary shit. I did not do that shit, man.
Okay. That's what we're talking to. We're here to investigate this, okay? That's why we're asking all these questions.
I'm sorry for freaking out, man, but I didn't fucking do this shit, man. I'm fucking shaking. I did not fucking do this, man.
Justin had already served 3 years in prison for a robbery in his early 20s. He more than likely knew the reassuring tone of the investigator wasn't a good sign. Although slightly more animated than the average person, this form of aggression is a commonplace response from the innocent being directly accused. He comes off aggressive, but in a defensive manner. He is not being hostile, but highly combative when professing his innocence. His conduct is totally justified considering the circumstance. When facing a considerable amount of time in prison for something you didn't do, this level of anger is warranted. So when compared to the forgiving composure of Michael Dixon, the extraordinary nature of his behavior becomes even more pronounced.
I really don't have an answer for you except to say I didn't do it.
I guess we haven't really got a great amount of talking about. Yeah, it's like I said, that whether you did it or not isn't up for discussion.
Okay, well,
it's really not. There's a number of witnesses.
Great.
One of whom had a video camera.
Perfect. Okay, then. Well, that's relieving. That's relieving. To be quite honest.
Yeah.
So use a video camera.
I have.
Okay.
That's why your guilt isn't an issue here.
That doesn't even make sense to me. Because if I'm on the video camera, that doesn't make sense. You have a video camera that shows me?
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
It makes perfect sense to me.
We'll have to, I guess, I have no choice but to get a lawyer then, if this is the kind of thing you're going to go through with me.
This isn't going to go away. You're charged with breaking in. You will be charged tonight.
Okay.
You will be going to court in the morning.
Perhaps the most upsetting moment, considering the fact that we know this man is innocent. You can see the fear emerge in his eyes as he realizes he won't be going home after this interview.
Charged with breaking in with intent. Okay, that's what's going to happen right now.
He is noticeably afraid of what lies ahead, yet reacts to the situation with reasoning and intuitiveness.
Can I ask you something? Okay, are you just making this up that you have a video camera so you see how I react? Because it goes that if you're saying, okay, hear me out for a second, please. If I am guilty, as you believe, because you have me on video camera, then okay, we'll go through the procedure. But I'm saying, I'm trying to call your bluff here because since I know I didn't do it, there's no way I can be on the video camera.
Well, like I say, it's not a game of poker.
Okay, well,
I've got nothing to gain from that.
I'm not trying to give you a hard time, all right?
You know what? I've got nothing to gain from that either way. Which is why I'm not asking you, did you do it? I'm not trying to catch you out. I've got nothing to gain from that.
Getting a confession void of evidence is in fact excellent for an investigator's career. It's a mark of merit and can accelerate promotion. Michael continues to profess his innocence in a calm and composed manner for a further 7 minutes. The detective then asks that he draw out a map and specify his movements before the arrest. Every detail of his alibi was later proven to be 100% accurate.
Like I said, from the information I've got, you're going to be charged tonight with breaking in. However, I do have a duty to make sure that the truth is, and basically the truth is paramount, and the true version of events is paramount. And I have a duty to investigate all of this, and I will investigate. I assure you, I'll investigate this story thoroughly, and hopefully, I'll be able to find something here, which will either prove or disprove, what we've discussed tonight. Okay.
Problem is the speed at which this is going. Yeah. Like when I was on the ground, I was saying, go quickly to the terminal. I have like 6 or so guys around me. Like talk to the bus driver. Right.
I can't comment on things that happen in the scene, unfortunately. But now
I'm left
kind of-
hanging, right?
Now I'm looking at this. I mean, this is the basically on the evidence I've got. This is the only course of events that can take place right now. But I will certainly make sure that this is looked into thoroughly.
Okay,
I
great.
can give you my word on that. That's my duty. That's what I have to do.
I trust you will. I was just wondering, can I make a phone call? Because I'm supposed to be at work at 8 a.m.
You're not going to be able to be at work, okay? Yeah,
I know I'm not going to be able to, but I like to phone ahead.
I can arrange that you get the phone call to let someone know that you're not going to be at place. Yeah.
So I'm hanging out in that room till 10?
No, we'll be taking you downstairs to a larger custody facility that put you out downstairs. Right, it's not the most pleasant place in a while, but it's only for a few hours.
Okay.
Okay. From court tomorrow, what happens there? I don't know.
Okay, well.
And I will look into all of this.
I trust you will, yeah.
Yeah.
I trust you will.
I'll make sure we got the whole picture.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, thank you, I guess.
Okay. You're not in an enviable position. You know.
I understand the process. I'm not satisfied with it. That's what I'm saying, you know.
And I don't expect that you're going to be happy with it.
You know, and I'm thinking, no disrespect to you, but I know someone sitting in this chair has probably lied to you a million times, right? So I'm thinking, what can I do to convince you? I tried to give you the information. Like,
You've been very good with me, and I try and treat everybody as an individual.
okay.
My main aim is two things: is that you get your rights
Mhm.
that you're entitled to under the Constitution of Canada,
Mhm.
and that you're treated decently, and that the truth comes out.
The truth eventually did come out, but the suspect wasn't treated decently. He was kept in jail for 3.5 days before a separate investigator looked into his alibi witnesses and checked surveillance of the area in question. He was then exonerated immediately. A civil trial ensued, and Michael was awarded $46,000 in punitive damages. The interrogating officer and 3 other investigators were all demoted and suspended without pay.
Name is two things: is that you get your rights that you're entitled to under the Constitution of Canada, and that you're treated decently, and that the truth comes out.
The truth eventually did come out, but the suspect wasn't treated decently. He was kept in jail for 3.5 days before a separate investigator looked into his alibi witnesses and checked surveillance of the area in question. He was then exonerated immediately. A civil trial ensued, and Michael was awarded $46,000 in punitive damages. The interrogating officer and 3 other investigators were all demoted and suspended without pay.
You're serious, aren't you? You're telling us you killed those 3 young men on the subway? Mm-hmm. And why?
without saying that the Rickest Rick would have the Mortiest Morty.
It would go without saying, huh?
Yeah, it would. Did you hear me say it?
Nah. The Mortiest Morty.
Just don't get too big for your loafers, Buster Brown. A cocky Morty can lead to some big problems. Can be a real bad thing for everybody.
Oh yeah? How's that?
I'll explain when you're older.
Most of you will already be aware of who 2-year-old Kaylee Anthony was. The majority will know that she sadly passed away at some point between 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. on June 16, 2008. Her death is undoubtedly the most heartbreaking part of this story, and we only need a single word to epitomize her short life: tragic. But the primary subject of this video is not about the life nor the death of Kaylee Marie Anthony. It is in fact about the psychological constitution of her mother, 22-year-old Casey Marie Anthony. So rather than tragic, you'll find the words disturbing and perplexing to be far better suited to the theme of this video. One of the many reasons this case is exceptional is how the present day's topic of discussion has little to do with the actual occurrences of the crime, but in fact the subsequent developments that followed. People are no longer talking about how or even why Kaylee Anthony passed away. They are instead talking about the manner in which a mother responded to her daughter's death. Given all the acquired information we now have, even if we afford this person the most morally acceptable possibility of what occurred, her manner of conduct was still unimaginably cold-blooded. This is driven home by the fact she was evaluated by 2 clinical psychologists during her time in custody, and not a single abnormality was discovered with relation to her psychological state. In other words, there were no signs of mental illness whatsoever. And this makes the character study of Casey Anthony just as fascinating as it is terrifying. A human being's state of mind is something most accurately assessed with the full capacity of hindsight. So before we evaluate our first segment of raw footage, here's a quick rundown of each of the essential moments that will give you a broader understanding of what we're actually dealing with. On the 15th of July, 2008, Orlando police received a call from Cindy Anthony, the grandmother of the victim.
911, what's your emergency? I called a little bit ago, the deputy sheriff. I found out my granddaughter has been taken. She has been missing for a month. We're talking about a 3-year-old little girl. My daughter finally admitted that the baby's in the store. I need to find her. Your daughter admitted that the baby is where? But the babysitter took her months ago. My daughter's been looking for her. I told you my daughter was missing for a month. I just found her today, but I can't find my granddaughter. She just admitted to me that she's been trying to find her herself. There's something wrong. I found my daughter's car today, and it smells like there's been a dead body in the damn car. Okay, what is the 3-year-old's name? Kaylee. C-A-Y-L-E-E. Anthony. Kaylee Anthony? Yes. How long has she been missing for? I have not seen her since the 7th of June. Is your daughter there? Yeah. Can I speak with her? She's down here. They want to talk to you. Answer the question. Hello? Hello? Yes. Can you tell me what's going on a little bit? I'm sorry? Can you tell me a little bit what's going on? My daughter's been missing for the last 31 weeks. And you know who has her? I know who has her. I've tried to contact her. I actually received a phone call today, now from a number that is no longer in service. I did get to speak to my daughter for about a moment, about a minute. Who has her? Do you have a name? Her name is Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez.
To give some context to this bizarre phone call, Casey Anthony had left the family home with her daughter a month earlier, stating that she had a work assignment in Tampa and would be traveling the entire time. Kaylee's grandparents would ask repeatedly over the following month to see, or at least speak to their granddaughter, but Casey claimed each and every time that she was too busy with work and that Kaylee was with a nanny who went by the name Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez, or Zanny for short. On July 15th, exactly 6 weeks after Kaylee was last seen by her grandparents, George Anthony received a phone call that the family car was at the impound lot. This immediately alerted suspicion, as it was the same car Casey had supposedly been traveling with for work. Suspicion turned into panic once they picked up the vehicle, and George discovered a strong odor emanating from the trunk, one that he recognized from his years as a police officer, and found comparable to that of human decomposition. Through contacting one of Casey's friends, her parents managed to track her down at her boyfriend's house in Orlando, where they were found smoking marijuana and watching TV. When inquired over the whereabouts of her daughter, Casey stated that she had been kidnapped 31 days before by the supposed babysitter. It was at that moment Cindy Anthony called 911.
911, what's your emergency? Who has her? Do you have a name? Her name is Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez. Who is that? Babysitter? She's been my nanny for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. Why are you calling now? Why didn't you call 31 days ago? I've been looking for her and have gone through other resources to try to find her, which was stupid. I think the officers are here. The officers are there? Yes.
Now let's indulge in the world of fantasy for just a moment and pretend all of what Casey had just stated was true. She had indeed been working, and her daughter was in fact kidnapped by the babysitter a month earlier. The immediate premise most would gather would be that Casey had no regard for her daughter whatsoever. In the 911 call, there was no urgency nor concern in her voice, and rather than her volunteering information, which most parents would do in a frantic manner, it had to be acquired by the dispatcher through repeated inquisition. All you have to do is compare Casey's dialogue to that of her mother's in the same phone call. One was indifferent, while the other was distraught. Police would have picked up on this immediately. Even without the bizarre phone call, the circumstances alone would make Casey the prime suspect in her daughter's disappearance. She was immediately interviewed as a witness, which unbeknownst to her, was the detective's first step in locking her into as many lies as possible.
Day right now is July 16, 2008. The time right now is 0411 hours. I'm Detective Mellish with the Orange County Sheriff's Office. I am with Casey Anthony, is that correct?
Yes.
Casey, you understand this is being recorded?
Yes.
Do you have any objection to that?
No.
Casey, I got called here in reference to a missing child. You took Casey to a babysitter's house?
Yes.
And who was this babysitter?
Her name is Zenaida.
How long had you known Zenaida?
4 years.
And where did you meet her? Who did you meet her through?
A mutual friend, his name is Jeffrey Michael Hopkins. I met him at Nickelodeon University. I met through him. She was his son's nanny. Nine, 10 months. He moved up to North Carolina for a short time and moved up to Jacksonville for the last 3 months.
How would you characterize your relationship with Miss Anthony?
More or less acquaintances.
You were very good friends?
Not very.
Did you ever work at Universal Studios?
I did.
When did you work?
Approximately 2000.
How long did you work there for?
1 year.
Did you ever work there at the same time that you see?
I don't think so.
You don't recall ever seeing it? Never. Did you ever introduce Casey Anthony to a woman by the name of Zenaida Gonzalez?
I did not.
Did you ever use Zenaida Gonzalez as a nanny?
No, sir.
Do you have any children?
No, sir.
Have you lived in the Orlando area consistently since 2000?
Yes, sir.
Have you ever lived in Jacksonville?
No, sir.
Have you ever lived in North Carolina?
No, sir.
Did you see Casey Anthony in the month of June of 2008?
No, sir.
When was the last time you spoke with him?
About a week and a half ago.
Do you know a telephone number for him?
I can find a number for him. I don't know a number offhand. No, I do not.
So you met Zenaida through Jeffrey Hopkins?
I did.
And his son Zach Hopkins, I guess? Zenaida used to watch over Zach?
Yes.
And when did she start watching over your child?
It's been within the last year and a half, 2 years that she started watching Kaylee.
How would you normally drop off, or how would you normally do the exchange with your child and Zenaida? Would you drop the child off? Would she meet you somewhere?
I would usually drop her off for a few months. We would go to Jacksonville, over in Avalon Park.
And you would go to Joe's house why?
To drop off Kaylee. That's where Zenaida would go to watch both of the kids. Centralized area, a decent sized house. It was good for the two of them.
back to your statement. You dropped off Kaylee June 9th and walk me through. You dropped her off to work. Get off of work.
I got off work, Universal, driving back to like a normal day, and I showed up to the apartment, knock on the door, nobody answers. So I called the cell phone, and it's not service. I didn't really want to come home. I wasn't sure what I'd say about what it was. Still hoping that I would get a call or find out that Kaylee was coming back so that I could go get her. And I ended up going to my boyfriend Anthony's house.
Sorry. Tell me anything about what happened with Kaylee? Did you talk to anyone about Kaylee, about your incident with Kaylee? Or the fact that she's missing?
A couple of people, some mutual friends.
Who did you talk to?
I talked to Jeffrey Hopkins. I talked to Juliette Lewis. She's one of my coworkers at Universal.
She works. You still work at Universal? What do you do at Universal? What is Juliette's? What position is she?
She was also the next coordinator in the same department.
Juliette Lewis doesn't exist. Casey had briefly worked at Universal, but hadn't been employed there for over 2 years prior to this interview. And she wasn't an event coordinator. She stood behind a kiosk and sold photos of people after they had been on the Incredible Hulk ride.
Some of the more recent numbers, her numbers just changed. She just within the last 2 months has finished moving back. She's some reason.
So Juliette doesn't work at Universal anymore?
No.
What's the reason, I asked you this before and I'll ask you just for the record, what's the reason you didn't call the police before?
I think part of me was naive enough to think that I could handle this myself, which obviously I couldn't. And I was scared that something would happen to her if I did notify the authorities or got the media involved. Just the fear of the unknown, fear of the potential of Kaylee getting hurt, of not seeing my daughter again.
I asked you this at the onset and asked you before we went on tape, and I'll ask you again just to make sure we're clear. Is there anything about this story that you're telling me that is untrue, or is there anything that you want to change or divert from what you've already told me?
No, sir.
Did you cause any injury to your child, Kaylee?
No, sir.
Did you hurt Kaylee or leave her somewhere and you're worried that if we find that out that people are going to look at you a wrong way?
No, sir.
And you're telling me that Zenaida took your child without your permission and hasn't returned her?
The last person that I've seen with my daughter, yes.
Is she Puerto Rican? Is she Dominican? Is she white?
She's mixed. She's black and Puerto Rican.
Is there any underlying cause to why Zenaida would have taken your child?
Nothing that...
Did she ever make any statements to you about...
Only how much she loves Kaylee and how great of a kid she is.
And when you talk to Jeffrey afterwards, I'm assuming that Jeffrey's child is still with him.
His child is still with him.
You said Zenaida had family up in New England, up in New York?
Yes, she has family down south. Her mother, her sister, her brother's in New York. She's originally from New York. Pretty much grew up there, moved down here, went to the University of Florida.
Zenaida, the nanny, doesn't exist. Casey never had a babysitter. Being the retrospective viewer, we have the benefit of knowing these are outright fabrications, and these meticulous details are a textbook sign of a pathological liar. She speaks eloquently and naturally, as if her dialogue is a reflex response to the questions she's being asked, when in reality, each of these minor details are calculated and deliberately placed for the purpose of deception, and the nonchalant, easygoing tone she employs is used to camouflage anxiety. Casey has not only become accustomed to manipulation, she has become extremely skilled in how to use it effectively. It takes us to the concept of nurture and how it most likely had a significant impact on her current circumstances. If we go through what we know about Casey's domestic history, there are numerous occasions where she had gotten away with things that most would not, simply due to the fact that she was able to continuously lie without conscience. A prime example could be when she was 18 years old and stopped attending class midway through her senior year. She literally skipped the entire second half of her final year to go hang out with her older boyfriend. Her parents became suspicious on several occasions, yet each and every time, Casey had some whimsical excuse to which she was given the benefit of the doubt. Then just days before graduation, her parents were informed by the school of her truancy and that she would not be graduating. When confronted, Casey's excuse was that her timetable was mixed up by the school, causing her to miss classes through no fault of her own. This is obviously a completely baffling excuse that no sane person would ever believe. Yet whether it be through denial or an overprotective nature, Casey's parents not only took her at her word, but even shielded her from the consequences of her actions. They lied to all their family friends that she graduated with honors, and even threw her an extravagant graduation party the day after. This is just one of the many occurrences where Casey faced no ramifications for misconduct. It seemed to give her the belief that no matter what she did, as long as she could spin one lie after another, or at least drag a lie out for as long as possible, everything would work itself out. The truth is that everything did work itself out when she was dealing with her parents, and she evidently thought the same rules applied with regard to national law and a missing child's investigation. After the initial statement you just heard, Casey was asked if she could take police to all places of interest. She happily obliged, and then proceeded to lead them to a multitude of fake addresses which she had nothing to do with. She then took them to her supposed office at Universal Studios and literally led 3 senior investigators to the very end of the building, taking over 25 minutes to walk to, before she finally turned around, put her hands in her back pockets, laughed, and admitted that she didn't work there. Completely dumbfounded, the detectives placed her under arrest and took her to a conference room in the building for what was essentially an interrogation.
Since I left you this morning, I've gone to every address that you told me. I came over here, I've already talked to all the employees. I found out all these names you're giving me are people that either never worked here or have been fired here for a long time ago. Okay, so where we are right now is in a position that doesn't look very good for you. Because obviously, I know, and you know, that everything you told me is wrong, right?
Not everything.
Pretty much everything you told me, including where Kaylee is living.
That I don't know what you
And here's looking at you, I know that everything that you told me is a lie. I am very confident, just by having talked to you this short period of time, that you know who she is.
I legitimately have not seen my daughter in 5 months. I don't know. That they put her with somebody. Somebody that had been taking care of her, that had been taking big care of her. Someone that she was comfortable with, that I was comfortable with.
What about Jeff? Did Jeff work here until 2 months ago?
No, he hasn't worked here for quite a while.
10 months? How long?
It's been at least 2 months.
He got fired in 2002. He hasn't been an employee here since 2002.
We've put a lot more together than I think you realize we put together. My question to you is, we're in this office because our purpose of coming here was to do what?
I'm trying to think of places where I know she's been.
You're not answering my question. Do you want us to help?
Yeah,
you want to find your daughter?
I do want to.
Well, a good starting point would be to answer the questions, okay? If I say to you, we're here because, and then you just ignore that, like I never asked it, and go off in some other direction, is that answering the question? Okay, let's go through this again. We're here because.
Because I lied, because I brought you up here, and honestly I was reaching for...
No, stop right there. I want you to tell me how lying to us is going to help us find your daughter. Well, the main thing you want to do is find your daughter, and you don't think lying to us is going to help us find her. Why would you do that?
Because I'm scared, and I know I'm running out of options. It's been a month.
What are you scared of?
I'm scared of not seeing my daughter ever again.
I'm a parent too. I would have been beside myself. I would have called the police immediately, and that's the part that I just don't understand. Well, we've got so many resources out there that we could help on day one.
You didn't know what to do.
I didn't know what to do. At that point, I'm thinking, okay, they haven't been gone that long. Maybe I can find them. Maybe I can track them down.
We're not stupid, okay? And what you're doing right now is you're treating us like we're stupid. Everything that's coming out of your mouth is a lie. Everything. Either you gave Kaylee to someone and you don't want anyone to find out because you think you're a bad mom, or something happened to Kaylee and Kaylee's buried somewhere or in a trash can somewhere, and you had something to do with it. Either way, right now, is not a very pretty picture to be painting. You're painting yourself as a very bad person. It needs to end.
The truthful thing is that I have not seen my daughter. The last time that I saw her was on the 9th of June.
Remember we had those 2 people that we were talking about, the person who had an accident, and a person who's just a cold-blooded, callous monster? That's telling me that you are the second person, this cold-blooded, callous monster who doesn't care and doesn't want to help because she's afraid that something so heinous happened that everyone's going to look at her and say, she's a monster, she deserves to go away, she deserves to never see the light of day, this bad thing should happen to her.
I don't want to believe that right now, but you're giving me no choice. Tell us what happened to Kaylee. Tell us what happened to Kaylee.
Dropped off Kaylee. That's the last time that I've seen her. I dropped her
Where
off.
did you drop her off?
I dropped her off at that apartment.
No, you didn't.
That's exactly
No,
where I
you
dropped
didn't.
her off.
Did you just think that one day she's just going to show up at your house?
No, I sat around yesterday trying to figure out what to do. I'm glad that I ended up seeing my mom, that all of that stuff happened. It happened for a reason. Because
You're glad you saw your mom. You could have saw your mom 5 weeks ago and said, Mom, I don't know
I
what...
saw my mom's reaction right off the bat, and it would have been the same from the get-go.
So wait a minute, you're more afraid of your mom's reaction than you are if you ever see your daughter again?
No, I'm absolutely petrified. Absolutely petrified. I know my mom will never forgive me. I'm never going to forgive myself.
Is it that there's some other thing more important in your life right now that you just weren't really focused on what you were saying when you told us? So you kind of just accidentally told us you had an office here and we needed to be here, or did you purposely mislead us? Which of those two is it? Okay, so you purposely misled us. This was all in an attempt to help find your daughter, right? That makes sense to you, correct?
In a backwards sort of way, yes.
Backwards
I'm
sort of way.
coming back to places that are familiar to me, that I know are familiar to her. Familiar situations that
What did you think?
just maybe
How old is she?
would help. She's almost 3.
She's almost 3. What do you think she's going to take a cab here? I mean,
I know
how do
she's
you think
not.
she's going to get here?
Because she's with someone else.
She's with someone else who's hid her from you for 5 weeks.
Yes.
Why would a person who has hid your daughter from you for 5 weeks, okay, bring her to the building that you used to work at?
I don't know what else to do anymore. If I knew where she was, if something
Well, let me
would have
ask you
happened,
this.
I would have admitted that a long time ago.
Do you believe thinking up more lies to tell us will help us?
She's with someone that I absolutely do not trust, and that I'm absolutely scared.
That you don't trust yet was babysitting your daughter for a year.
I don't trust her now because of what happened.
Who did you call first? Who did you go to for help first to help try to find her? Oh, no, okay, all right. Okay. Well, I'm glad we got that straightened out.
Casey was then taken to the county jail, where she in the evening hours was able to make a phone call, and just happened to see her mother on the local news moments before speaking to her.
Casey? Mom. Hey, sweetie. Oh, I just saw your nice little cameo on TV. Which one? What do you mean, which one? Which one? I did 4 different ones, and I don't know. I haven't seen them all. I've only seen 1 or 2 so far. You don't know what my involvement is and stuff? Casey. Mom. What? No. I don't know what your involvement is, sweetheart. You're not telling me where she's at. Because I don't f***ing know where she's at. Are you kidding me? Casey, don't waste your call to scream and holler at me. Waste my call sitting in the jail? Whose fault is you sitting in the jail? You're blaming me that you're sitting in the jail? Blame yourself for telling lies. You mean it's not your fault? What do you mean it's not your fault, sweetheart? If you'd have told them the truth and not lied about everything, they wouldn't... Do me a favor, just tell me what Tony's number is. I don't want to talk to you right now. I don't have his number. We'll get it from Lee because I know Lee's at the house. Get Tony's number for me. Hey, can you give me Tony's number?
I can do that. I don't know what real good it's going to do at this point.
Well, I'd like to talk to him anyway.
Okay.
Because I called to talk to my mother, and it's waste. Oh, by the way, I don't want any of you coming up here when I have my first hearing for bombs and everything else. Like, don't even waste your time coming up here.
You're making it real tough for anybody to want to try to... I'm not going around and around with you. That's pointless. Christina would love to talk to you because she thinks that you will tell her what's going on. Frankly, we're going to find out. Everything
I have
she's
no
telling them
clue where
is
Kaylee
a
is. If I knew where Kaylee was, do you think any of this would be happening? No.
Anyway, you only got a couple minutes of this, so I'm not going to let you screw away. So here's Christina. She thinks she can fix it.
No, I want Tony's number. I'm not talking to anybody else. Hi, I'm glad everybody's at my house. Do me a favor, get my brother back because I need Tony's number.
Does Tony have anything to do with Kaylee?
No, nothing.
Okay, so why do you want to talk to Tony?
He's my boyfriend, and I want to actually try to sit and talk to him because I didn't get a chance to talk to him earlier because I got arrested on whim today. I just want to talk to Tony, get a little bit of...
Casey, you have to tell me if you know anything about Kaylee.
Sweetheart,
if anything happens with Kaylee, Casey, I'll die. You understand? I'll die. If anything happens to that baby.
Oh my god, calling you guys? a waste. Huge waste.
Casey appeared in the court the next morning and was initially denied bail by the judge. He cited his reason as her undeniable disregard for the welfare of her own child. She was kept in protective custody, and it would be 9 days until she received her first visit from her parents. With a readership of over 46 million adults in America, having your missing child on the front cover of People magazine would seem as a godsend to most. Yet Casey's response is almost as if it's a lost cause.
Everybody is looking for her. Good. Everybody is looking for her. Are we going to be able to find her? I hope we can, Mom. No, I didn't get a chance to talk to you. Can you look up a little bit more? Raise your eyes up a little bit. There you go. So now, look straight up so I can look into your eyes, darling. Thank you. I need you know I need to do that. It's okay to cry, Casey. It's alright, love. Give up and crying.
Setting aside morality and ethics for just a moment, Casey at this point would be emotionally exhausted. She had been sitting in an isolated jail cell for almost 2 weeks as the entire world was turning against her. Anyone in her position, guilty or otherwise, would be at near breaking point, and her composed exterior now finally slips. She, for a brief moment, allows herself to be vulnerable, and for perhaps the first time, expresses the pain of her situation. This is one of the few moments where Casey's true self is on display. Of itself, it's a touching moment between a mother and daughter, yet if we add in the context of the surrounding elements, she is only expressing this pain for herself. Just a moment ago, when she saw her deceased daughter's face on her father's shirt, none of this emotion came out.
Casey, I want to ask you just a couple questions. Good.
The rest of the visit is extremely bizarre. Casey's parents try to extract any information they can about Kaylee's possible whereabouts, and each time are essentially dismissed by Casey as if they're asking pointless and irritating questions.
Do we have any pictures of Sandy's apartment?
Lee and I already talked about this. I don't know. It could be on the disc at all. I don't know.
What is your... I can't get into your...
I gave Lee everything already. I gave Lee all of the passwords, everything we could possibly
Because I want to get...
all over again.
I want to get some video clips off of Kaylee, because the video clip with Grandpa is really helping people. Still pictures don't show...
No, they don't show personality.
Right, and we need to show personality, so I need to make sure we get that password.
I gave Lee the password.
Look up, sweetheart, I need to see your eyes.
I want to be able to look at you guys too. I can't look at you and look at the camera.
Well, you don't have to look at the camera, look at me.
I'm looking at you.
Okay.
You're sitting very low.
The exchange switches back and forth from inquisitive and challenging to sympathetic and loving, and every time her parents stop inquiring over the case and show that they still care about Casey herself is when the tears come out.
Do you want to speak to your father now?
Sure.
Hey, gorgeous, how you doing?
I look like hell.
Well, you know something? You really need to keep your spirit high through this.
I haven't been crying while I've been in here.
Well, you know
Trying to
something?
read books and do other things to keep my focused.
Well, you know, I want to be able to reach out and hug you and give you the big Papa Joe hug. But you know, we got to get that little girl back any way we can, and we're doing everything we can.
I gave Lee a statement.
Wait.
What's gonna go with it exactly?
Every time Casey's parents mention that people are willing to help with the search, Casey dismisses their credibility and even attacks some of their characters while she battles.
Tara. You mean Mark's wife, Tara. Yes. People like Tara, people like Jesse who are maybe trying to help. Even Christina, God bless her. Don't know what the hell they're talking about.
You know, I'm gonna take your pain away from you. So, yeah, you can tell me anything. I miss you, sweetie.
I miss you too.
I wish I could have been a better dad, a better grandpa.
You've been a great dad and you've been the best grandfather. Don't for a second think otherwise. And you and Mom have been the best grandparents. Kaylee's been so lucky. Kaylee is so lucky to have both of you. I can't even put into words how glad I am that she's had both of you. And that she still has both of you.
You know, it goes without saying, you know, that our house is empty without both of you there. It's empty. All the little things we took for granted, we miss them so much.
That's exactly how I feel.
All your little things and all the little things are just they're not there. Mom and I are just going through the motions, you know.
I ate coleslaw today. Tell them I ate coleslaw.
Well, you probably ate a lot of things you never used to eat before because when you're hungry, you'll eat.
I hated bologna. I've been eating bologna and cheese on occasion. Grits.
Well, you know what? You're going to eat what's in front of you.
We get another glimpse at Casey's skill in fabricating information and her ability to intertwine specific details to afford her lies some credibility. These minor intricacies are what would make her extremely convincing if we didn't happen to know otherwise.
They never searched by her full name. They searched by Zenaida Hernandez, whereas Zenaida Gonzalez never by her full name.
And it's Z-E-N.
Z-E-N-A-I-D-A. I don't think she has a middle name. There was never a middle name on anything that I remember seeing. And I know she went by both last names. She always has. Since she was younger, since her mom was married.
Laura Gonzalez, and you don't know what her stepdad
Hernandez Gonzalez.
You don't know what Fernandez Gonzalez.
I think her dad's first name is Victor. Her stepdad, or that could be her real dad. But I remember her saying Victor. Victor
So
and Gloria were parents.
Victor and Gloria are parents, but they're separated or divorced.
That they are as of now. Yeah, that was her stepdad. But I know she has a lot of money. That was she worked hard.
I only get one or two phone calls a day that, you know, that are not nice phone calls. But I get many, many, many phone calls and many people reaching out that just believe in you. They believe in us finding Kaylee. Okay? So keep your head up high. But if you think of anything that could help, don't be afraid.
Oh, I won't hesitate to let you guys know.
You have to keep thinking positive, positive feelings, Casey.
Oh, I know, I have been. I've been staying as positive as I can.
But do you think after this long she'd still be local?
There's a possibility.
What's your gut telling you right now?
My
You have
gut's
the
telling
same.
me that she's okay.
Okay, and your gut tells you that she's close or
Papa nada.
She's not far. I know in my heart she's not far. I can feel it.
This was perhaps the first time Casey told the truth when speaking of her daughter's whereabouts, as she indeed wasn't that far away. Her attorney, Jose Baez, eventually managed to get her bail, and Casey was fitted with an electronic monitoring device and released on August 21st. She had spent just over 1 month in custody. 2 months later, police were granted permission to arrest Casey on the charge of first-degree murder. She was taken in for interrogation, but immediately requested her right to counsel. She was kept in the interview room while awaiting her attorney, and the released footage of that period is so bizarre to the point where it's almost comical. The detectives give off a passive, yet glaringly obvious vibe that lets Casey know exactly what they think. being that she is guilty of her daughter's probable death and a fundamentally terrible human being on every imaginable level. Casey's response to this is to essentially ignore it and act as if the discourse between them and the situation itself is an everyday occurrence, one that perhaps doesn't concern the disappearance of her daughter, for which she is being charged for. You'll notice that she effortlessly maintains the same confident and talkative disposition that she had in her previous interviews with police. It's almost surreal to watch given the circumstance, and the visual element adds an entire new level to the absurdity. The first segment of footage shows the arresting officer waiting with Casey for the lead investigator to arrive. He initiates the conversation by bringing up the subject of Casey's parents. He asserts that he's worried about them, but the actual message he's putting across is that he essentially knows Casey is guilty and that she isn't fooling anyone. It's an indirect yet obvious accusation.
I was afraid that some of what I said to them probably offended them because I told them that
Sordo.
Destio, Gio. Gio, Kalala. Destio, Gio. Gio, Kalala.
Sordo. Sordo.
Nice.
Gala negosa dros. Hakana sagamos.